In this episode of the 250 Bird Challenge, Willem and I are birding in the surroundings of Weert, with our main target being the mega rare Sappheiros. Hi, I'm the Dutch birder, and 2025 is my 17th year of birding. This year I'm on a quest to document at least 250 different bird species. Join me on my quest through wetlands and forest of the small European country called the Netherlands. Since the Sappheiros will only start calling when it's dark, Willem and I are first going to try some other spots to see if we can add any new species to our year list. This is the first spot, and here some black-crowned night herons seem to be breeding, so let's see if we can find them. We've just entered a place called the Banen, a stunning chain of nutrient-poor fens. It's part of the Nature 2000 network, meaning it holds the highest conservation status in all of Europe. Even from the road, we could tell this was going to be something special. We hadn't been there for more than a minute when another bird showed up, also in search of the elusive black-crowned night heron, or kwak as we call it in Dutch. Finding one wouldn't be easy. The area was teeming with colonial nesters. Cormorants, spoonbills and grey herons dominated the scene. But we had time, and so we scanned the water, taking in the sight of a group of spoonbills, including fully grown but still noisy juveniles begging for food. That soft bubbling sound you hear? That's them. Young spoonbills are also paler and lack the cream-colored wash of the adults. But don't be fooled by the begging. They're already practicing how to find food on their own. In the far corner of the fen, a grey heron stood completely motionless, in the typical statue-like pose only herons can pull off. Hoping to capture a moment of action, I focused my camera on it. The heron definitely had its eyes on something, because suddenly it struck. Whatever it was, it got away, and the heron gave up. Meanwhile, Willem had spotted something. He thought he saw a slightly smaller heron tucked among the greys. Could it be a night heron? He kindly offered me a look through his scope, but I decided to grab my own. He gave me directions, just to the left of the leaning tree, behind the dark patch of reeds, and I zoomed in. From my angle, I caught a little bit more detail, and unfortunately, it turned out to be yet another grey heron. But then Willem noticed something else, a bird hide on the north side of the fen. It might offer a better view of the colony from another angle. From the viewpoint next to the road, we couldn't find any black-crowned night herons, so we're now going to try the hide. We made our way along a narrow forest trail where an nectarine warbler was singing high in the canopy, though it remained frustratingly out of sight. When we reached the hide, it felt almost like we were boarding a boat. The whole structure wobbled with every step, not exactly ideal for filming. Still, right in the front of the hide, we spotted a nesting great-crested grebe, a clear sign that the breeding season was in full swing. And then, success! From the height, we had a perfect view of the rear side of the trees we'd seen earlier, and there it was, an adult black-crowned night heron in full view. Stocky, short-necked, with striking red eyes, the night heron is mainly nocturnal, usually resting during the day and hunting at night, although during the breeding season they often forage in daylight too. The true picture of the black-crowned night heron status in the Netherlands is a bit clouded. Many birds seen in the wild are actually escapes or releases. Around zoos in particular, small breeding colonies have formed. It's even possible that genuinely wild birds have joined these semi-domesticated groups. In Leeuwarden, for example, wild, unringed night herons have been nesting right on top of the enclosures where captive ones are kept. One fellow visitor in the hide turned to me and said, "Well, I don't even need to take photos anymore, I'll just watch your videos. It's always a highlight to meet subscribers in the field." Over 100 years ago, the species had several natural colonies in the Netherlands, but due to extensive egg collecting and draining of wetlands, the night heron all but disappeared as a native breeder. These days, however, the species seems to be making a quiet comeback, with a few pairs now breeding here near Weert, and they could very well be of wild origin. Meanwhile, eyes remained trained on the bushes. A second bird appeared, though just out of clear view behind a branch, of course. we had to shift around a bit in the height to try and capture a cleaner shot. Truth be told, the night heron wasn't a species I was too concerned about for the birding challenge. In Groningen, a few birds have been spending summers in a small city park for several years now. That was my original plan for this year. But since we were in the area for the skopsel anyway, we figured why not? And we were also genuinely curious about the habitat that attracts such rare breeders. It turned out to be a pleasant surprise. May they keep breeding here for years to come. From the height we did see some black-crowned night herons, 2 adults and 1 second calendar year bird, so that was a success. There were also some reports of cattle egrets, but we didn't see any of those. And we also didn't see any little egrets, but the black-crowned night heron was our main target. We are now at our next location, where some finest-throated parrotbills are supposed to be present. And this is a category C species, but more on that later. We didn't quite know what to expect. We heard they were hiding in reeds, so we imagined large reed beds around open water. But here, the reeds were scattered among grassy patches and trees. For a while, we heard or saw nothing, but just as we were reaching the end of the area where the birds had been reported, a few suddenly darted between the bushes, fast and silent. These phineus-throated parrotbills, as mentioned earlier, are category C birds, a self-sustaining population that originally stems from escaped individuals. They're not yet officially counted on the Dutch bird list, but that may change soon. Whether they'll then count towards official national birding rankings remains to be seen. After the finer-throated parrotbills also cooperated, we have arrived at our final destination, the spot where the skopsel has been calling for quite some weeks now. It was gone for about 10 days, but was refound, so it's apparently still here. I've got an hour of daylight left, and I hope I can find it before then, but I have very little hope. But hopefully we can hear it calling. The skopsel had recently been heard calling in the trees at the edge of a residential neighborhood near the railway tracks. No one had yet managed to see it in daylight, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. As we waited, a blackbird began its evening song, a sure sign that light was fading and our chance of spotting the owl was slipping away. Luckily, Willem came prepared. He's the proud new owner of a thermal imaging scope, which helped us spot a number of birds and even a hedgehog that we'd never ever seen with the naked eye. But the owl remained elusive, until finally, around 11:30 p.m. it began to sing. On the recording you can briefly, but quite clearly, hear a second bird calling. Could it be a female, joining in duet? Is there perhaps even a breeding attempt going on? Naturally, once the owl began singing, we wanted to try spotting it with the thermal image scope. Easier said than done. Even a few leaves can completely block the heat signature. But eventually, success. And that's why I'm counting the species for the challenge. A few days later, a greater short-toed lark was found near Muiden. Willem and I couldn't go that day, so we made plans to head out the following morning. We agreed if the lark hadn't been reported by the time we passed Almere, we changed course and go towards Kwaardehoek instead. Sadly, the greater short-toed lark hasn't been reported at all today, so we've decided to drive on to South Holland. We are now at Kwaardehoek for a melodious warbler. Luckily, the melodious warbler was right at the viewpoint, saving us a long walk. It was windy, which had us a little worried, but the viewpoint turned out to be nicely sheltered, so we weren't affected by the gusts. Upon arrival, the melodious warbler is singing in full force, so let's hope we get some great shots. We heard the bird singing constantly and saw it darting through the bushes a few times, but it stayed mostly hiding on the far side or perhaps deep inside the foliage. Definitely not where we were standing. This could be a tricky one. Ah, this is so frustrating. It is singing in full force, but we can't get a clear view of the bird. We've been waiting for almost half an hour. It's constantly singing, which is very nice of course, but I want to get some shots of this bird. Let's go. When the bird moved to another shrub, we followed, heading to the top level of the lookout to try and get a clear view. No luck there either, so we paced back and forth trying to find the best angle. Finally, I got the bird in my lens for a moment. It wasn't singing at that point. It was too busy making life miserable for the insects in the bush. One by one, they disappeared into the belly of the warbler. In this shot, note the lack of a pale wing panel and the shorter primary projection compared to the common ictrin warbler. Subtle but important ID features. Yes, finally, after a lot of effort, we finally got some shots of the bird. There are also some turtle doves singing here, so that makes the picture perfect. Nice. Unfortunately, most of my footage turned out to be slightly out of focus, though I didn't notice it until I got home. No matter, time to move on to the next stop. Our next destination was the Isle of Mckenya, home to rare breeding birds like little tern, Arctic tern and Kentish plover. The last two will be new additions to the year list. Mckenya formed after the Gravelingen Lake was cut off from the North Sea during the delta works. Over time, sand and silt accumulated, creating the small island, now managed as a breeding and resting site for coastal birds. It was a key location during our 2016 National Big Day record, where we quickly checked off all our targets here. The wind was strong and the distance to the island was considerable, but the light was good and soon we had several little terns in view, including this one, busy preening. Mediterranean gulls flew past us constantly. On the island itself, we saw a group of 3 standing together. As a northerner, the species still feels special to me. They've never really established themselves up north. In this shot, you can clearly see how they differ from the black-headed gull. They're larger, have white wingtips, a darker, more extensive black hood, a redder bill, and a much more distinct broken white eye ring. The facial pattern is actually more similar to laughing gulls or Franklin gulls from the Americas, but those have a much darker mantle and black wingtips, so they're still unmistakable with a good look. My eye was drawn to 2 little terns that looked like they were about to mate, but maybe the male wasn't quite brave enough to go through with it. The wind was fierce. I watched the scene unfold for several minutes, but nothing happened. For extra stability, I placed the beanbag on the car, but even that didn't stop the camera from shaking. The wind made it nearly impossible to pick out an Arctic tern from among the common terns. Then suddenly, Willem picked up something interesting. A very distant Kentish plover. It took me a while to find the bird in the camera, given the range, but with some heavy cropping, it still turned into a nicely recognizable Kentish plover. Sadly, this species has become a rare sight. In the 1980s, there were around 700 breeding pairs in the Netherlands. That number plummeted to just 127 pairs by 2015. Thanks to habitat management and protection, the population has started to recover, but only slightly. In 2023, 212 pairs were counted. The main threats are overgrown breeding grounds and increased human activity on beaches. Fortunately, Mckenya is off limits to the public, so the birds can enjoy the peace and space they need to breed. You can tell a Kentish plover apart from little and common ring plovers by the narrow black side bands on the breast, the longer and thinner all-black bill, and the dark legs. Males in breeding plumage also show a distinctive orangey brown patch on the rear of the crown. After about half an hour of searching with no Arctic tern in sight, we decided to move on to our next destination, the Oostvoornse lake, where a seabird was waiting for us. For more than a decade now, a few common guillemots have made this deep lake south of the Maasvlakte their year-round home. We've also ticked them off during our 2016 big day, and now, 9 years later, we needed them again, this time for the film year list. We parked at the Slagbaatmannetje access point and started scanning the rippling lake. My eye caught a red-breasted merganser, a species that's quite scarce in the Netherlands this time of year. Only around 50 breeding pairs remain, most of which are found in the Delta region. Meanwhile, Willem had already spotted a beautiful guillemot, not too far from shore and in full summer plumage. A stationary guillemot in breeding plumage is anything but common in the Netherlands. Why a handful of guillemots have remained here year-round for so many years is still a bit of a mystery. I've heard a rumor they might be rehabilitated birds released from a rescue center, but I haven't found any official source to back that up. After a good session of preening, the guillemot decided it was done for the day and suddenly took off, flying high into the sky. A lucky break. We had arrived just in time.
We just got the guillemot and our next plan was to go to a Little Bitten, but we got an alert that a lesser spotted eagle is hunting nearby Zwolle, so that will be our next destination.
We already knew we'd have until around midday before the rain would hit. Heavy showers were forecasted to sweep across the country, so it worked out perfectly. We used the rainy hours to drive from Oostvoorne to Zwolle. The downpour would likely keep the eagle grounded anyway, but during the drive, the idea of the bird in question began to shift. First it was called a lesser spotted eagle, then a steppe eagle, followed by a greater spotted eagle, and finally it was labeled a hybrid lesser spotted, greater spotted eagle. Whatever it turned out to be, I wanted it on film. Once we arrived, we decided to try our luck from a small road running alongside the dike. The eagle had been seen in the middle of the area, between two roads, so we took a gamble on which side might give us a closer view. Luckily, the bird was spotted quickly, sitting proudly on a post out in the open. It was still raining on and off, but I didn't want to risk missing it, so I went ahead and started filming. What immediately stood out was the bird's very dark plumage, a trait most consistent with greater spotted eagle. My bird of prey bingo card was already full, so I had to improvise a bit to keep track. Still, the eagle was quite far away, so we decided to try the opposite side. There, we ran into a few familiar faces who pointed out a smew swimming in a shallow pool nearby. Reviewing the footage later, I noticed something odd. The bird appeared to be missing its right wing. That likely explained why it was still hanging around. Normally, smews have long since left the country by April, except for a few breeding pairs in southwest Friesland. But even from this side, the eagle was still just as far. We hoped it might come a bit closer on its own. A few times it stretched its wings and flew short distances, perhaps to dry off or maybe to hunt down a snack in the field. Unfortunately, it looked more like the eagle was drifting away from us towards the dike. So, back in the car and around we went again. Upon returning to the first spot, we heard that the greater spotted eagle had recently clashed with a local marsh harrier and even a red kite. Sadly, we had missed the skirmish, but with about an hour left before we had to head home, we waited patiently to see what might unfold. Later, once things had calmed down, the Dutch Birding Forum dove into the idea again, comparing key features with the best available photos. It turned out there might not be anything obviously wrong with calling it a pure greater spotted eagle after all. Either way, I'm counting it for the yearless challenge. There's something truly magical about watching eagles. They're just massive, powerful birds, the kind that even non-birders get excited about. Fortunately, the eagle treated us to a stunning aerial display before the end of the day. The marsh harrier and red kite even showed up again for a quick encore. So here is a compilation of the best shots we managed to capture. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button and the notification bell, and hopefully I'll see you next time.